What's up, guys? I'm Lakea Vargas. I'm your host for Submission District. And we have two guests here. We have Jeff Stout, we have Jun.
What's going on, guys? It's good to get back again.
Nice to be here for the first time.
So, me and Jeff, we did a podcast last week. And it was talking about why we started judo, how we started judo. And today we actually have Jun here. He's a black belt in BJJ. Jun, would you talk about how you got into jiu-jitsu real quick? What's your accomplishments? Why you did jiu-jitsu and all?
I first started off jiu-jitsu when I was a sophomore in college. I think it was a combination of things, honestly. New York City, I was blessed to go to college in New York City.
Nice.
And it's the mecca of jiu-jitsu now. Back then, I think I took it for granted. And down the street was a Renzo Gracie Academy that just opened up in the Bronx. And I took full advantage of it. I just walked in. I kind of knew what jiu-jitsu was because I'd been following Pride back when it first started. I don't know if you guys remember Pride.
I know Pride.
But
I don't. I'm not familiar with that.
No?
What is that?
Pride was the premier fighting organization before the UFC.
Really? Okay. I learned something new today. I did not know that. Okay.
So in Pride, there was this fighter called Kazushi Sakuraba.
Okay.
So if you were Asian and you followed Pride, it was amazing to see this guy that kind of looked like you know, that could tap out the Gracies. I don't know how you felt about it, Lakea, but for me it was eye-opening. And then I got interested in jiu-jitsu and then the art form itself. And then when I walked in, I fell in love.
That's nice. It's
a great story, yeah.
And Jun, have you ever done judo?
I did do judo when I was, I believe, 11 or 12 years old. Yeah, I think I did it for a year and a half. The only reason I stopped was because I moved. And it was a little bit far away. And as you guys are aware, judo is... there's not a lot of places to train judo. It's not easy to find a judo club.
Yeah. That actually leads me to the first question I have for you, Jun. We see throughout North America, we see BJJ. It's just been, for the past 10 years, we've just been seeing it growing and growing. Participation is up. Participation in competitions or just recreational BJJ is up. It's not even an Olympic sport, and everyone wants to compete. Everyone wants to do BJJ. Everyone knows at least what it is. And my question for you is, even with a sport like judo, where even you've mentioned that we've seen a lacking in that kind of growth, even though it's an Olympic sport, what is it about judo that the sport needs to perhaps look into? What will make it as appealing as BJJ? What is it that BJJ has?
I think it all started with UFC 1, Jeff. Jiu-Jitsu broke out on the scene. It was a martial art that nobody had heard of unless you were an expert in martial arts and you were deep into that culture of martial arts. So when Jiu-Jitsu broke out in the scene, I think people were just so mesmerized by this skinny Brazilian guy tapping out humongous American wrestlers, judokas, just every single martial art. So the way it was marketed was perfect because people just turn on the TV and they see Royce Gracie, 170 pounds, just tapping all these big guys out and winning the first UFC. I think in the gi. Yeah, in the gi.
Wow.
And I think that propelled jiu-jitsu onto the scene. It made it more popular. So. And plus there was this sort of, if you did jiu-jitsu, you were a badass because it was so underground. And the way it began, so I think it came at the right time because there was TV. I think when judo first came on the scene, I think it was around the time that Teddy Roosevelt was president, and they brought a judo expert over, and he started teaching Teddy Roosevelt. But back then, judo was jiu-jitsu. There was no clear-cut definition of, this is jiu-jitsu and this is judo. So for me, I think that's the main reason why it blew up.
Okay.
Judo never had that, boom, we're here, America. It was just basically... Yeah. You just were like, my dad used to do it. But then, there's jiu-jitsu, and then there's this guy. And then you instantly recognize it.
This guy's tapping out everyone.
Yeah, so I think that's why it caught fire so quickly.
Yeah. It did. I totally agree with that.
I like your analogy, how it was kind of like a basement type of a thing. Almost like, it made me think of like Fight Club, right?
It was like, it was like, if you know about it,
you're in the cellar,
if you don't, fuck off.
Yeah.
Right. Basically,
true.
that's what jiu-jitsu was. And if you were good at it, and plus there was not a lot of black belts back then. There was a lot of judo black belts, but not a lot of jiu-jitsu black belts because most of them were in Brazil. So when you would see a black belt, like when I started out, just a little bit of my beginning story is, every time I saw a black belt from me, it was like, you saw a unicorn. You're like, who is this guy? You see him walking into the gym, and they say, oh, this black belt is from, here. And you're like, oh. Yeah. But then you couldn't roll with him because he has to ask you first. And I feel like, I think one of the subjects that I want to touch on later on is how jiu-jitsu, I feel like the rules that I used to follow are not put into effect anymore. Like, people are just trying to kind of make it more like, like the direction that it's going, it's kind of relaxed. Like if jiu-jitsu were
How do you feel about
soccer league.
Do you like that it's getting relaxed? Do you think that it's going too far? Do you want to keep it traditional?
And this is what I want to touch upon was, for me, the reason why I like jiu-jitsu so much was because I don't know why most people join. Most people will say, I joined because I wanted to lose weight. I joined because I just wanted to de-stress. But for me, I don't know, a lot of you out there I wanted discipline.
Yeah.
And exactly. I remember when I was 20, and I felt like the thing that I was seeking the most was discipline. Because I remember I read an old Musashi quote that said, you will find true freedom once you are able to discipline your mind. And then everything comes. And then that's why I went into jiu-jitsu, because the moment that they tell me, it's not easy to get a black belt. It takes 10 to 12 years. And that's basically, you need discipline. You need to go every day and train in order to get that black belt. So that's why I started. So in order to have discipline, when you go to class, it can't be a party.
Yeah, or a social gathering.
Yeah, it has to be a martial arts class.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, that's a good point, because that's the kind of the difference between judo and BJJ, and I don't know if it's because maybe BJJ is on the rise. Both sports are traditionally Japanese. All right, even though it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Jiu-Jitsu is originally Japanese, and it's interesting because these are two sports that were born within Japanese culture, and we see that it's very apparent in judo, right? You always rei meaning bow. You always do all this stuff, and judo in itself is, in terms of discipline, is kind of, depending on the club you go to, is stuck in a time capsule. Everything is like very traditional. The katas.
They're cut from the same cloth.
Right. But in BJJ, we don't see that. We see more of the...
Well, because you said BJJ, it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
No, but BJJ stems from Jiu-Jitsu. That's the point I'm coming from. Like it's come on this journey. Do you prefer like traditional Jiu-Jitsu, or do you like the traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Or that's more of what I was getting at.
I think academy per academy differs a little bit in how traditional it is. But for me, the academy Renzo Gracie, for me, like always my mindset, they never said it, but for me, what I tell my students is when we start class and when we end class and how we compose ourselves, we're Japanese, but when we fight, we're Brazilian. Because all the techniques that we use were perfected in Brazil, to be honest with you. Everything was already there. They just interpreted it in their own way, right? So when you just shake hands and boom and do this and you start, okay, that's okay for me, because I think that's the Latin aspect of it.
Gotcha.
But when you start and you end, and in between every during the class, you have to keep your composure. This is still a martial arts class.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The only time that you're able to actually, and I think this is also a little bit why jiu-jitsu is catching fire a little bit more, is because you can express yourself through your techniques.
Yeah.
Because there's always a new technique. There's always a new way to do something. And I'm sure judo as well, but I feel like you see it more in jiu-jitsu.
Yes. Yeah. Going back, actually, there was more judokas in the world back in UFC 1, but they didn't compete. And I wanted to touch upon that because Jeff was saying about the culture. Now, I didn't know, but I actually learned from my sensei Sasaki that judokas, it was considered disrespectful to verse other martial arts. So that's why you didn't really see that much judokas in like UFC 1 or the first ever UFC tournaments or fights, because it was considered disrespectful. Because, if we go back in time, Kimura versus Grandmaster Gracie.
Yes, it's a famous match.
Not Jigoro Kano, but Kimura, he wasn't considered in the Kodokan, I believe. He wasn't considered, he wasn't recognized, but he was one of the best judokas ever. But under the judo culture, they saw that as disrespectful of versing other martial arts because it wasn't the culture. Now, honestly, I wish there was more judokas in the first UFC, and I would really like to see that. So that's like my thinking behind that.
Yeah, the judokas came into the scene a little bit too late for UFC.
I agree, and I think the judo community, I don't know whether it's with IJF or other organizations or just how judo kind of goes about it, but they have a tendency to lose the culture war. And I'll tell you why. There's several stories, whether both in this case fictional. Did you know Karate Kid was the original story was he actually did judo, not karate?
Oh, really?
You didn't know that? It was actually judo. I don't know if you're ever familiar with a story or you've seen the Amazon show based off the book called Man in the High Castle. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I'm not. I don't.
Basically, it's basically a show. It's like, what if, in World War II, the Nazis and the Japanese had won? Now, one of the main characters, the girl, if you've seen the show, which is a good show, I recommend it, the girl does Aikido. But in the book, in the original story, she does Judo. And again, it was another opportunity for Judo to kind of showcase what it actually was and the opportunity to get lost. Perhaps because the producers felt that nobody really knew what Judo was versus something like Aikido. Or in the Karate Kid's, case, karate versus judo, right? And so I don't know how you would solve that. I don't know how you would go about that. But there's time and time again, there's an opportunity to showcase what judo is, and we've fallen short. I think UFC, I don't think we've fallen short. I think it just came too late.
I think you fell behind. You didn't fall short.
It's like how the samurais didn't believe in guns. They believed in the tradition of sword fighting and of the samurai way. And then you have the Western culture coming in, using that, and they see the Japanese sees that as like a weakness.
Yeah.
And the samurai never fought with shields because they saw that as dishonorable. So like they're honestly like no offense.
They do themselves a disservice.
They were stuck in their old culture, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came along and took the scene. So, yeah.
Gotta be able to adapt. Battlefield, whether it's martial arts, something new is always coming out, right? And actually, that reminds me because maybe in Japanese culture not so much, but in Russia they did, right? There was a time where judo was very popular in Eastern European countries, right? But during the Soviet Union years, especially early on, I don't know if you know this, but judo was actually outlawed. I don't know if you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
in where?
In the Soviet Union. It was outlawed in the very beginning.
That's surprising.
I did not know that.
They did it.
Yeah. Putin.
Yes, it was in the very beginning, towards like pre and during World War II, like the beginning of the communist regime coming in. Since that, they've lifted it, but that was how Sambo was born, because they couldn't practice judo and they couldn't practice these other because during the takeover, once the Tsars were overthrown, they didn't want people. They didn't want so many combatants, right? They just wanted the central government, right? And so judo was actually prohibited along with other martial arts.
I wonder if that has anything to do with because the Russians got their butts whipped in I think the Sino-Japanese War. They lost a lot of territory to Japan.
Maybe. Could have been. But that's actually what gave birth to the Russian sport of Sambo, which is basically a combination of all those mixed martial arts,
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's how it first started.
Wow.
And that's actually how that got started. But adaptation, right? They were able to see it in even not, I wouldn't say the Russian government, but the people, right? They wanted a sport. They wanted to be able to know how to do these things, and they adapted. So.
Okay. All right. Well, as we continue, we're talking about BJJ versus judo, and I wanted to get you guys' mindsets on that. The first question that comes into mind is, Jun, what do you think when you first hear judo? Like, what comes in mind?
Obviously, takedowns.
Takedowns? Okay.
Obviously, an Olympic sport. Honestly, when I think about judo, I just see a sport that's a little bit outdated.
Okay.
I feel like the reason also we were talking about why jiu-jitsu is more popular is because judo lacks, I believe it's whenever you see a judo match in the Olympics, I feel like it's gotten to the point where it's very boring. Unless the guys are uber aggressive and they're actually going for the takedown. I know that jiu-jitsu also, now there's a lot of points players, but there's submissions and the tap out. I feel like the tap out is more exciting to see than a takedown.
Gotcha.
Because I feel like once there's a takedown, I feel like there should be a continuation to the tap out. So I think when I see judo, it's not something that I look forward to seeing in the Olympics. Like I only see it when Korea is, fighting or, somebody that I know, but apart from that, no.
Gotcha. Now, I guess for me, I would disagree with that one because, yes, I'm a black belt in judo and you're a black belt in BJJ. For me, the judo rules today, I feel that it holds us in a certain spot. It used to be very interesting to watch. Now, yes, there's like a lot of penalties. There's a lot of rules. You can't grab below the belt. But I feel like it's more exciting than watching a jiu-jitsu match because for a spectator who doesn't know anything about jiu-jitsu and then they watch an IBJJF tournament, and I love jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong, but I can't sit down and watch a 10-minute match and someone wins by an advantage. Now, I know jiu-jitsu, I practice it, but what if a spectator watches it and they don't know what's going on?
I think you're referring more to the gi jiu-jitsu matches.
Okay.
I'm referring more to the no-gi submission-only matches. That for me is very exciting to watch. A lot of the jiu-jitsu players that are coming out of the Renzo Gracie Academy, they go for the submission most of the time, and it's just beautiful transitions. And I guess it is true. If you're a spectator and you just see a takedown, you understand it a little bit more than the transition to submission. But yes.
Okay. What about you, Jeff?
I'm biased because I've been doing judo for 12 years and I've been doing BJJ for if you were combined all the little itty bits of times that I've been doing BJJ, I think I don't amount to maybe 1.5 years. So to me, when I watch a judo match, it's more exciting. I get excited for takedowns. Submissions are also very entertaining, but when I watch a BJJ match, a lot of time there's a lot of points players. Now, when you bring up if it were a match where it was like submission only, then special case for that. But outside of that, then it's a little bit tough. I will say though, I will agree with you. Outdated, yes, but also, is it weird to say that even though I would think that it's outdated, that I prefer the old rules?
It's
with
weird.
leg grabs. It is weird,
I'm
right?
just kidding. No, I honestly think they should bring it back.
No, because here's the thing. Legs make up half of your body.
Yeah.
Look
at Greco-Roman wrestling. You can't use any foot sweeps, any ashiwaza. So
yeah.
But at the same time, I do agree with Jeff. I think that there should be some leg grabs.
I feel like
that took away a lot from judo. And I'll ask you guys this question: you guys like takedowns more, right?
Yes.
So I don't like takedowns.
Oh, okay. So when you see a takedown, you feel that the person that took him down, the one, obviously the victor, the winner, completely dominated the guy, right? That's what it means, right? You get your hand raised, all right, you got the back hit the mat.
Yeah.
In jiu-jitsu, you win is pretty much saying I could have killed you when you get the tap out, or broken your arm, or broken your leg, and then kept on destroying you even more.
Well, now,
so that is the thing. That's why I feel
but there are submissions in judo too.
There are submissions, but you're not going for the submission. You're going for the takedown. You can win by submission, but it's like maybe 5% out of the matches, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe
you're right.
Flavio
Absolutely.
Canto used to go for a couple, but in jiu-jitsu, you're literally, I feel like it's the sport where you're exerting complete domination over the person. If I get a rear naked choke, I'm basically making you say, yeah, you almost killed me. Good job.
Yeah,
in judo,
that's fair.
Like, good, you took me down. Good job. It's like, all right, okay, you took me down to the ground, but after that, what's next, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
I like that thinking that
that's
you have.
true. Killer mindset.
But
I like it.
Here's the thing. So, judo from Japan.
Look cool. I'm just kidding.
So, the samurais. This is our mindset. The samurais never had shields. So in a battle, right? So in judo, you could win either by throwing with ippon, which means if I throw you and you land on both of your shoulders, if I submit you with an armbar or a choke, or if I pin you, osai komi. So those are some of the ways to win in a judo match. Now, in samurai culture, they believe that if I was to throw you on your back, you can't defend yourself, then I could strike you and kill you.
Right.
So that was the main, I guess you could say the main reason why we have Ippon.
I was just thinking to myself, I'll completely concede that a BJJ match would be much more entertaining than a judo match if the BJJ match was fought at the pace that a judo match was fought at.
Just imagine a BJJ match, because today in the Olympics, judo is 4-minute rounds.
Yes.
Just imagine a BJJ match, 4-minute rounds.
But it's a
Instead of 10
sprint.
minutes.
It's not because I see, and you might disagree, but in my experience and from what I see, a BJJ match is more comparable to a marathon than that of a sprint.
Yes.
Would you agree?
If
There's
it's
a lot.
So if it's nogi,
if it's nogi, I think it's faster. It's much faster.
it is much faster.
You have no
Okay.
grips.
Okay, that's fair.
You have
But
no
there
grips.
is 10-minute matches out there.
yeah,
You don't
there's-
see a 4-minute match.
You don't see
with
a
black
4-minute
belts.
match because I think we put up with the fact that you need at least a little bit more time to submit somebody
Yes.
and try to kill them than try to take them down.
That's
right.
Yeah,
You guys just
100%.
pull guard.
Because we pull guard, exactly.
Yeah.
I tell all my students, right, the art of jiu-jitsu is the fact that you can fight off of your back. So in samurai culture, you said took him down and then
Strike
pretty
them
much
dead.
you strike them and okay, yes, of course. But in jiu-jitsu, like we took it the next step further and it's like, okay, you're on your back now, what do?
You don't just lay there and give
You
up,
just
right?
lay there and just give up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, but I will admit that judo, I do like to see the takedowns. I do, especially when it's a high level guy. I remember in the 2008 Beijing Olympics, I saw one of the Korean guys. I think it was a 78 kilo, or I don't know if that's an actual bracket, but I think it was around the
73.
70s.
73,
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
I think it's a Hisongi. He was killing it.
Yeah.
He took down every single person
Lee-Won Hee.
in his run from the prelims all the way to the final.
He
So
fought
when you
the
see that,
Russian.
it's amazing because he mastered his art.
Yeah.
And anytime you see somebody master their art, is extremely amazing.
It is. It
But
is.
there's not a lot of guys like that out there.
No.
Yes.
That's
Even
very
in
rare.
jiu-jitsu as well, there's a lot of guys that are just butt scooters, right? They just pull guard and they play the points game, but that's mostly IBJJF, but I like to see the no-gi matches.
Gotcha.
I see. Yep.
Yeah.
Would you like to see BJJ, gi, or no gi become a Olympic sport? Or do you like it the way it
Do you
is?
think it might be an Olympic sport? Is
Do you think
there
it should be?
opportunity?
I
love these questions, by the way.
I want it to be. But I don't know if how you would. Boxing. The biggest problem for boxing is there's too many federations, and and there's so many champions in the same weight class that you don't. That's why boxing is also falling in popularity.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
There's
that's
no
why
uniformity.
UFC took over. There's no uniformity. So that's what I would fear because in jiu-jitsu, I mean,
You're gonna have the Gracies run it?
let's be honest. The Brazilians aren't the best with organization.
Yeah.
Not to say that they're not able to, but that's the case most of the time. So,
That's fair.
do you honestly feel like you'll find uniformity in jiu-jitsu going and then transitioning it into an Olympic sport? It's gonna be hard. And then,
If you had asked me that 10 years ago, I'd say you'd have to justify it. You
I
already
don't
have
think it'll
wrestling,
be-
you have judo. Why would you have no-gi or BJJ? But if you were to ask me that now, I'd say absolutely. More people now than ever are watching UFC. They're more familiar with these individual, just grappling arts. There's more people watching these sports than there were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So if you had asked me 10 years ago, I'd have said no. But if you had asked me today, I'd be like, a lot of times the Olympics is also based off of viewership, right? It's also based off of, like, we're going to have this, but
I'll
are
tell
people
you one thing
interested?
though, Jeff. If they can have curling in the Winter Olympics, I think that they can have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
But there's nothing like
That's right.
But there's nothing like curling. That's the only thing. There's nothing like it. There's
What
no,
about hockey? I'm just kidding.
But you get my point that I'm trying to make. Like, if you have no-gi and then you have wrestling, and then
The
you have
janitorial staff in this building could do curling.
that's fair. Yeah. No, I understand. And I
They could
understand.
probably win a bronze medal. I'll be honest with you.
Ooh, maybe I should get into that
Yeah,
sport.
there you go.
No, I'm just not. I'm just joking around. Curling is a real sport.
No, it is
watch
a real
someone,
sport, but you
viewing
get
this
the point that I'm
does
trying to
that.
say. I think the market right now, for some reason, I don't know if we're just feeling extra malicious today. We woke up on the wrong side of the bed this decade, but we want to watch fights.
We want to see blood, Jeff.
Yeah. Why? And do people? Of course, commentators, even like in a sport like football or hockey or something, and a fight breaks out, and the commentators always have to take the high ground and be like, "Oh, this is just not." But you don't think
But this
people
is-
are at
that's
home.
interesting.
Even though you don't
That's
think people are at home are like, "Yeah, let's go get him." you don't think that they're doing that. People are hungry for a fight, and that's why things like UFC, Bellator, Judo to an extent, maybe a little bit.
It's modern day gladiator fighting.
Exactly, and I think that's what people want. And so I think in the Olympics, you have a need for that. And so that's why I bring it up. Do you think...
I'll be honest with you guys. I am a jiu-jitsu black belt, and you guys are judo black belts, of course. Great. And yes, I feel like each sport has a right to be an Olympic sport. I feel like they should take all the martial arts out and then just put mixed martial arts as the actual Olympic sport. I feel like that should be the ultimate goal, because I feel like MMA should be the ultimate goal. Because in reality,
a fight's a fight.
A fight's a fight.
Yeah.
And why should you only focus in on the submission, or you should only focus in on the punching, or you should focus only on... MMA is the reason why it was created, was to see which is the superior martial art. So they started mixing the best of everything, right? It's far more exciting. You know that there's already 3 rounds of 5 minutes. Okay, you know that UFC is the governing body, but you could easily transition that into take him out and then just put it into Olympic sport.
Okay,
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. I can see that. I don't know why, and I wouldn't say take out all the martial arts, but it'd be interesting if you did have an Olympic.
They could take out Taekwondo.
Oh,
okay. I'm Korean. Taekwondo.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Taekwondo is not effective.
Or what about karate going into the Olympics?
Karate is not effective.
Right. Versus something like Muay Thai, boxing.
I'm using effective, and you can put in any other word after.
Okay.
All right. But MMA as an Olympic sport, it's funny. I'd ask a couple people this, and they always say the same thing. They're like, "No, that's a bloody sport." And I'm like, "What sport isn't bloody?"
Well, you got to remember. Look at boxing. They have helmets or the little face guard. They have like big gloves on.
But UFC would probably be not UFC. But MMA would probably be what you see in the UFC.
I bet you $1 million that if Conor McGregor went for Team Ireland into the MMA for the Olympics, people would start watching the Olympics.
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God, true. Yeah. No, I honestly, anyone who watches UFC,
and he took a shot of Proper 12 right before. Oh man.
Oh yeah. No, you don't think anyone and everyone that watches UFC is not going to watch MMA in the Olympics? You would probably have UFC would probably be counting towards points to qualify.
That would be amazing.
You know what I mean? There'd be a qualification system, so it'd be the best of the best. Like, okay, you could be Ultimate Fighter, you could be Bellator champion, and then, okay, you're an Olympic champion.
Yes.
In MMA, I think that is the most badass thing ever.
I feel like it's the most popular sport that's not even considered into the Olympics.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know why. I don't know.
So why don't we all gather together and make up our federation?
Yeah, that would be nice.
$1 million idea. Let's just contact Dana White and be like, look, let's have UFC be like
White.
No? All right. That's fair.
All right. So moving to the next question. This is going to be for you, Jeff.
Okay.
BJJ versus Judo. What do you think has the most injuries? Since you practice both.
It's just funny. My instinct automatically says Judo because it's a lot more fast paced. It's a lot more aggressive. It's a lot more roughs. But personally, I've been injured a lot more in BJJ than I have in Judo. But with a caveat, they're usually when I'm going with like big white belts.
Okay.
So that's fair. So in that case, I'll exclude that because that's true for any sport.
So the spazzy white belts.
The spazzy white belts. Well, you can't really blame them because they're new and that they're not a true. Yeah, it's BJJ, but I don't want to have that be a representation of the true art of the sport.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say Judo.
Okay.
Only because competing at a high level, you'll see more injuries than high level BJJ. At least just from my experience.
A lot of concussions.
Now, if you were to include the white belts in Judo and white belts in BJJ, I would say BJJ. I don't know if that's fair to say.
You know what I'll say?
You look like you want to scratch my eyes out.
I would say neither. I think every combat sport has a high probability of getting injured, depending on who you train with.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
That's the key. I could train Judo for 10 years and not have a single injury if all my training partners are black belts. They will, if they're not looking to hurt me, they won't hurt me, and I can learn. Just like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you have good training partners that actually want to support you and make you grow into the sport and make you love it, they will not hurt you. Maybe you'll get like a toe or a finger injury, but that's normal. Now, in every sport, there's that a-hole that's trying to make a statement for themselves in the gym. And this is especially that one person that never competes, that's always there training for nothing. And he injures everybody. So I feel like there's that one dude in every sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this though. Before people are like, yeah, any type of martial art injuries, yeah, because like compare. I would implore people to add up all the injuries from BJJ and judo and throw in wrestling. Why not? And compare that to the injuries that you see in football. And
Football, you guys wear pads.
And tell me,
American football.
Tell me which is the safer. Yeah, throw in soccer too. And tell me which is the safer sport.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me which is the safer sport. One teaches you how to fall. Even judo traditionally, but BJJ too, they teach you how to fall. And in wrestling, they teach you how to brace, right? Football, they don't do any of that. They're just like, yeah, just kind of tuck and hope your helmet does the job for you.
I mean,
And
the crazier thing is that I feel like rugby is safer than football, because football you have the pads on, so you have like this false sense of security that, I have the pads on.
I actually think it does a disservice.
I'm just gonna run into this 300-pound linebacker like it's nothing. But then in rugby, you're like, I don't have any pads on, so I better position myself very strategically. So I keep that in mind. But yes, I feel like martial arts teaches you how to keep yourself safe.
Oh yeah.
Other sports just teach you how to kick a ball, and then somebody kicked Annie's leg. Now she has fractured tibia and fibula.
And how often in soccer or football or rugby do you get blindsided? Often.
All the
How
time.
many and how many injuries spur from that? In judo, BJJ, you're focused on your opponent. If you get blindsided, you're not focused.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
Or the guy's just too good.
right, or if you get caught in a surprise, but even then, like the chance of you getting injured versus if a 300 linebacker, you're not paying attention, he strikes you, it's different.
In jiu-jitsu, most injuries happen because of ego.
Yeah.
More than
That's
actual freak training injuries. Some people don't like to tap, and if you don't like to tap and you have an arm bar, well,
That's on you.
Yeah, that's
if you
on
don't
you.
tap, that's on you.
Yeah.
Like
So I feel like
Cut and
most
dry.
of the injuries that I've seen my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners or like my teammates in the past get is because you tapped too late, or you were caught in a weird position, you didn't tap. Just tap.
Yeah.
Tap, snap, or nap.
Yeah. Train the next day.
Yeah. Always live to
right.
fight tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't think I said that right.
It's okay, Jeff.
So, also, Jeff,
Yeah.
Jun, do you play chess?
I don't play chess.
You don't play chess. You just play jiu-jitsu chess.
I just try to snap or tap people.
There we go.
Not nap?
No, no nap. No nap.
You're not that guy.
No, I'm not that guy.
Okay. All right, so Jeff, I know you like to play chess.
I like to play
We
chess.
play chess together.
Yeah.
And when we compare the game of chess to BJJ and judo, what is the difference?
The difference?
Yes, the game of chess. We were talking about that,
You're talking about the. How do you mean? How are they different?
Yes. So, like, for example,
One hurts, the other one doesn't.
I think both hurt.
Both hurts. All
It
right.
does. Well, this is where I'm getting at.
Okay.
So I feel like judo is like fast-paced chess.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is very methodical, very slow type of chess. Even if it's no-gi, I think judo is like a little bit faster, like a fast-paced chess.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that,
I
Jeff?
agree with that. Yeah. Mhm.
What about you, June?
Are we comparing still chess to jiu-jitsu and judo?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's physical chess, right? Like you're using your body to test out all your theories that you thought were correct. Like when you're going on the chessboard, you have all these moves that you have in your mind. You're only testing it out with pawns and knights and queens and kings. But on the jiu-jitsu or on the mats in general with judo or jiu-jitsu, you're testing out with your body itself. So just like Jeff said, you're testing it out with your mind, and the other one you're testing it out with your bare limbs. See if it works,
I'll tell you how they're similar. They're similar in the case that, and sometimes people have a hard time. They get the idea right. It's very methodical, but they think like they don't actually apply the game. And the point is that, in chess, you're successful if you can strike a guy, strike his pieces from multiple different ways, and you understand in your mind all of your options. You're not just a one-trick pony. The second thing is you quickly realize the more pieces you have, the more in your toolbox, but the more you can have them like working in symphony, versus if it's just a pawn doing its own thing and a knight doing its own thing. If you can use your whole team to achieve one common goal, that's where I struggle, because that's why I have a bad guard. My arms don't do what my legs require, and my legs don't. You know what I mean? I feel like a beetle upside down, and that's my problem. But chess is kind of like, that would be the equivalent of me just, pawns are doing their own things, and my more advanced line is not, on the same page. And that's how I see very advanced judo players, but more so BJJ players, when they can use every part of their body, every position. And I see Pimenta do this, and I see that you do this too. Lakea every now and then. Where he can every position, even his head, he's using it as a fifth limb. You become real dangerous real quick. When you can, like, every movement you make is a calculated movement. There's no wasted space. It's very efficient, and you become a very just lethal player that way. And I mean lethal in like a good way. I'm not saying like actually lethal, but
you work on your top game, you work on your bottom game, you work on,
you can strike from any position,
certain aspects of your submission game, you work on your guillotine game, on how to get to the back, back control. There's like a lot of stuff that you can work on. And I think the same thing with chess, right? You learn how to use the pawn a little bit better, you learn how to use the knight a little bit better. It's never ending. I think that's why we love the sport so much, or just judo and jiu-jitsu in general. I think that most of us, we're always seeking that. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like whenever I'm training, I'm always trying to be a better version of myself. So I always tell myself I could be a little bit better than yesterday, and I could probably implement that into my game. And it's never ending, because you're never going to be a master of everything. You'll always be amateur at certain aspects of jiu-jitsu or judo. And I think we're seeking perfection in something that you can't achieve ever. Just like chess, you can never achieve perfection in chess.
Yeah.
No,
you'll never be invincible either. And and the amazing thing about sports is that you have a limited time to do it. After that, once you peaked, and then that's it. And I feel like that's one. I think I was talking about this in an interview with Alec, that it's sad to see people leave, but sometimes that person feels like they peaked at a certain belt level, and then they never come back because they're not willing to test themselves anymore.
That's right. Talking about belts and ranks, I think this is a big question, and a lot of people who go in both sports, even though we say, oh, don't worry about the belt color, everyone kind of worries about the rankings.
Oh, yeah, of course.
About the belt colors, about the stripes. So in judo, when we get our shodan or our black belt, it's considered the start of our judo journey. Like we know the basics. And that was my question. Is that the same for jiu-jitsu?
Of course. When I got my black belt, I felt that I had still so much more to learn. You start off, and I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 12 years. And during those 12 years, right there.
12 years judo, 12 years jiu-jitsu.
A Chinese year. It was a Chinese horoscope. It's 12 years, right?
Yeah.
So
there we go.
When I got my black belt, I definitely, there's still holes in my game. You never stop learning. I had the same feeling. And when you actually sit down, once you get your black belt, I don't know if you guys had this experience when you got your judo black belt, is everybody congratulates you. You're happy because everybody else is happy for you. But you're just kind of like, you can't help but like go back to your house, and you have like this little quiet moment, and you're like, man, like there's so much more I need to work on.
There is. And one
almost like you have to justify wearing that belt.
You're that belt, it's kind of like you have to go and train harder.
Yeah.
Because I've seen I hate it when I see a judo or jiu-jitsu black belt that gets their black belt and they just sit on the sidelines and they're like, well, I did what I had to do.
Yeah. I know some people like they want to retire, but they haven't achieved that goal yet, and so it's they get the black belt just so that they can say I completed this.
Yeah, and then also plus they just want that instant respect of saying, oh, I'm a judo black belt there, I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. They expect people to be like, oh, really? That's amazing.
I view black belt, at least in judo, because I've been doing it longer, I can kind of relate to it a little bit more, as like you're getting a degree. You're getting a degree, okay? You get your black belt, you have a degree. Now you can go to work. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no.
So it's kind of like, okay, 100%. I achieved my black belt, which means like, okay, I have enough knowledge to say, okay, I can be able to teach fundamentals. I can compete when I step onto the mat. If there's no coach in my chair, I know what I'm doing. Right. At least for the most part, I can coach myself mentally. But by no means does that mean I know everything. Am I going to verse a guy that is going to throw me with something I've never seen before?
Yeah.
There's a high chance of that. Oh, yeah, for certain. It doesn't mean that, I'm expected to know everything, in the books. I should know the fundamentals, like the back of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I should have my own game.
I used to use that same analogy with when just getting the belts themselves.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like when you're white belt, you're from pre-K in lower school,
Okay.
and then when you're blue belt, you're in middle school, purple belt, you're in high school, brown belt, you're in college,
There we go.
and then
Oh,
black belt, you're
that's a
getting your
nice-
PhD.
There we
But
go.
then-
There you go, yeah.
I wouldn't trust every PhD to work at NASA.
No.
Right?
If you
That's
know what
true.
I mean.
That's right.
I hear you 100%.
That's right. And then
Rocket
also
surgery.
for judo, I see 16-year-old, 15-year-old black belts, and I feel like you can get your black belt a little bit easier, honestly, in judo
Yeah.
than in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu takes a whole bunch of years. Now, you have people like BJ Penn, who's very, very talented, who got their black belt like
One in a
3
million.
years. Yeah, but in judo, I see people getting their black belt in 3 years sometimes. They go to the Kodokan, they do the Naga no Kata, and then they complete it, they get their shodan.
And that's what's happening in jiu-jitsu as well, where it's becoming
Oh.
more political. Like, it's more who you know and, do you go to the belt promotion after? Like, people are strategic with it.
Yeah.
Very.
And I used to hate
Political.
people that did that. People that used to use the photo ops, to get their stripes and go
Yeah.
at the end of the year and only train for, like, half of the year. So, like, they would train, the first half they would chill out, and then the second half of the year they would train really hard, so they get a bunch of pictures on Instagram and they buy more gis from their instructor and they donate a
They
lot
buy,
more to
they
the
buy their
that
way.
favorite
Yeah, they
student.
buy their way to the higher
Yeah,
rank.
and then
Gotcha.
sometimes we'll see that with certain organizations. At least we know it's true for judo, where they're like, yeah, we really think you're deserving of your nidan or sandan, which is like
Yeah.
your second or third
Yeah.
degree. Oh, by the way, to get that, it's a couple grand. And the truth of the matter is, we're strapped for cash. Here, buy your next rank. Here's a piece of paper. Here,
Yeah.
that'll cost you $2,000.
and
know.
for me,
Yeah.
the beauty of the purity of jiu-jitsu was the fact that it was merit based.
Yeah.
If you sucked, you were never going up, my friend. You were
Mm-hmm.
just staying as a white belt.
Now,
Yeah.
do you believe in the attendance rule? If you show up,
I think it's bullshit.
okay. I like
think,
your honesty.
I think just because you attended 90
I
classes
totally
does
agree.
not mean you know how to do a kimura properly.
So
either you know or you don't.
know.
So, question for you: Do you also think it's by your knowledge of BJJ, or how many matches you can win, or the combination
Not
of the
everyone's
two?
a competitor. though.
Not
That's what I'm
everyone-
saying.
No,
That's why I
so
asked.
now the instructor has to be there every day, looking at their students and their limitations and how hard they're
Right,
progressing.
yeah.
So like if you see a guy that's working on the kimura and he understands the concept, that doesn't mean he's gonna go out in a tournament and apply it and win.
All right, okay. I wanted
But-
that clarification
yeah, yeah.
because you had mentioned like, oh, he sucks. But I'm like, well, there's some people that just kind of do it as a hobby and they'll master the art, but they just
don't
have to
expect a
compete.
stripe at the end
Yeah.
of the day if you think it's a hobby like that, and you still
Well, no,
can't do a kimura.
but some people's goals are to be able to
like so the
go to
thing
the
is
top.
like I compare like my students to a person that doesn't know jiu-jitsu, okay?
Yeah.
So if they're a blue belt, and this is just off the Gracie rules, right? If they're a blue belt and right, Jeff's a blue
blue
belt in
belt.
jiu-jitsu.
Yep, I am.
But if he were to get in trouble outside in downtown Orlando,
Yeah.
and there's somebody that knows nothing about jiu-jitsu, can Jeff tap him out? Of course Jeff can tap him out.
Okay.
That's a blue belt. That he understands the basics of I can hold close guard,
Mm-hmm.
I can get to his back, and I can tap him out. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a blue belt and you can't do that, then you're not a true blue belt, my friend.
Yeah. Now, would I have to pull guard, or can I?
You can take him down. You have the judo experience.
Thank you. I'm just
So
making sure I
don't pull
wasn't-
guard. Could we do a beat and bolo in the street?
No, well, I mean, if it's a heavier,
Okay,
guy,
that's fair.
I think what Poise Gracie.
He'll
If I got stuck in guard,
you know
then-
what you're
okay.
doing, right?
Gotcha. So I'm gonna hire some
yeah.
some
You're gonna-
goons to.
there we go. I'm gonna get jumped, as I leave and go down home tonight, and there we go. That'll be great.
Yeah.
That's all right.
But yes, the attendance rule for me is
You don't
ridiculous.
Like
Like I think it's either you know it or you don't.
I agree.
It's like math, right? Either you know how to
Yeah.
do the problem or you don't.
just because you show up to class doesn't mean you're paying attention.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like if they had that same attendance rule in high school,
We'd all be A students.
we would all be in
I'll
Harvard.
just show up.
Yeah, Harvard. We'd just be like, yeah.
We need to have certain criteria, right? We
have
can't
to,
just give
yeah.
away the belts. The belts are there for a reason, especially if you earn them the hard way. Like I'm assuming you guys and me, like we came up. It's hard to get a fucking belt in
Yeah.
It
in
is.
both sports. And if you didn't earn it truly, then I hate the fact that there's a fake black belt that's representing the sport.
Yeah, because you put in your time, your blood, your sweat, your tears.
Exactly.
People are going to
It's like
compare
false
that black
valor.
belt to you.
Exactly. Then
Yeah.
then they'll see that guy in a fight and he gets his ass whooped And they say, oh, all jiu-jitsu black belts are like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and like today you could go on YouTube and look at those BJJ cops.
Yeah.
And the BJJ cop, you could actually hire them if you think someone's a fake black belt, and the BJJ cop will test them out.
Of course.
And put them up on YouTube.
And
That's
rightfully
actually
I kind of want to do that with judo black belt cops.
Yeah.
Actually,
I feel like there's somebody in mind.
No.
No.
I think I'm gonna put it on Jeff. Let's test you out.
Oh, you're talking about me. No, yeah. No, I thought we were...
You guys want a dojo storm someplace soon?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe,
Yeah? What is it? Which one?
After the podcast, we'll discuss. No, but anyways, yeah.
Leave your comments on which club you
Yeah,
think
who do you
in
think it
Orlando has the fake judo black belt.
Well, just in Florida in general,
Just in
right?
Florida. Yeah, it's just...
Or in America. Let's make it bigger. You know where to find us.
There we go. Yeah, for sure. No, call us if you think you have a fake black belt. All right. So what's the next question you had for June?
Honestly, I think that's
Since
it. Like,
June, I
is
should
there
say.
anything that you want to touch upon? BJJ versus judo, comparing.
What did you
Are
say
they
to someone?
different?
Who,
Or, yeah.
who would address you as sensei? Just out of curiosity. There's a couple times in your class I almost called you sensei, and I was like,
I feel like I feel like jiu-jitsu is a little bit more lax in that.
Okay.
And the fact that I don't mind if people call me by my name.
Okay.
All
right.
Professor.
If you want to, I feel like if you want and you feel like the necessity for it, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Some people are a little bit more traditional in that sense. I don't take that into. I don't. My thing is, just because you call me professor doesn't mean you respect me.
Interesting.
It's just a term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, of course, if you're used to calling your instructor in martial arts professor or sensei, yeah, of course, go ahead. But just because you're calling me sensei doesn't mean in the back of your head, if I'm a terrible black belt, you think, oh, this guy sucks. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather have somebody
Okay.
call my name and just know that they respect me than call me sensei and just have, like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, I hear
It's
you.
just, for me, it's more of the fact that, like, all right, they recognize who I am. That's perfectly fine by me.
That's right.
There we go. Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last comments that I'll say is, if anybody out there is watching and you're considering doing jiu-jitsu or judo, they're both beautiful martial arts. They're both based on discipline and hard work. And if you're looking to start, please go ahead and come and visit us. We'll be more than happy to help.
Yes, of course. I think my last comment is, if you are about to start either sport, or if you're still doing that one sport, whether it be BJJ or judo, I think doing both will help each other out, just so you can have more in your toolbox. And I feel like judo and jiu-jitsu is a brother and sister sport in the end of the day.
They're cut from the same cloth, like I said before. Tachiwaza and Neowaza were hand in hand. The
Yeah.
only reason it got separated was because I feel like you guys touched on this subject before, where Japanese are a little bit too stuck in their tradition.
They are.
And I feel like they've shot themselves in their own foot
Mhm.
too many times because of it. And if
You
you
think
don't
the
adapt,
dynasty is falling?
and if you don't adapt with the times,
Yeah.
you don't want to keep on using the same iPhone that's from 2006, right?
Right. That's fair. It's a fair thing to say.
I like that saying. Jeff?
Yeah, no. I honestly, like, the advice I'd give to anybody starting either sport would be almost synonymous to what you were saying. I would say if you were going to start one, if you had the opportunity to do both at the same time, do it. If you could give someone that advice, just starting one. That's one thing I kind of wish I did when I first started judo, was also pair it with BJJ. Because if I did that, I felt like there's so many matches that I lost that could have been won on the ground. Could have been won. Countless. That if I knew how to pass a guard, even the way I could pass a guard now, like the 12 years that I've been competing, I've been in that same position where it's half guard and I could have gotten a pin, right? And all I had to get was my ankle out, and all I had to do was put my foot in that little hip pocket, right? I didn't know that.
And I will say one thing: if you are not in the Orlando area and you do want to start, and you go to a gym, just make sure you ask your black belt their lineage. If they know their lineage, then they're probably a legit black belt in either sport. If they're a little bit murky about it, I would say fact check.
Yeah.
Go online and make sure that whatever names that he's giving you make sense in terms
Yeah,
of
you
lineage.
can verify.
You can always
No
verify.
blackbelt.com.
there's a lot of gyms here in Florida that I could dojo storm, but I don't because I don't have the time. I have twins, but
I could hire me.
I could always send Lakea
There you go.
and Jeff.
Good.
There you go.
I mean, if a black belt, if I can beat you as a blue belt and you're going full
Now
force.
I have
then-
one last question before we leave.
Sure.
If you guys beat up a black belt in their own gym, would you feel bad?
No. Well, okay, that depends.
Yeah, it all depends.
It depends.
Man.
Are they actively competing, or are they like 60?
Would
But-
you submit someone? Would you go with someone that's 60 years old?
No, that's the thing. I wouldn't. So in that case, no. But are you saying like, oh, they're running their own club, but are they like Lakea and I, that they themselves are still competing?
Let's say that
I have an answer.
I don't think it matters if they're 60 or they're 30 or they're
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
It-
So that's different.
In
So,
the end of the day, if I'm a guest and I'm going into their dojo,
Because even if you're 60, you know a 60-year-old badass from a 60-year-old.
yeah, like Brad
True.
Thompson.
Weakling.
Listen,
Yeah, no,
Brad
absolutely.
Thompson, so
100%. But I wouldn't go.
me, Jeff, and June, we go to OBJJ, and the owner of the gym is Brad Thompson. He's 72 years old, and he's a black belt. And I go 100% on him because this guy is like strong. He can submit me in any other day because I have to be on my toes and focus during the match.
Yeah.
You know? But to answer your question, for me, I wouldn't submit them first round. I wouldn't submit them first round if I'm visiting their gym or their dojo, just out of respect. Second round, third round, I'll go in for the submission. But I will always let them know that I'm better than them by getting them in a submission and then letting go.
I don't think age matters because one of our instructors, his name is Nilsson. I believe he's 40 something.
Yeah, and this
And
guy
he moves
submits
like
me
a
like
25-year-old.
6 times in
I
in a
think it's
minute.
different. But like, oh, so are you talking about BJJ or judo? Because I feel like it's different in judo, isn't it?
The judo mindset, if you're a black belt
Yeah.
and I'm visiting another black belt gym, we don't even care if we throw you on your head.
Yeah.
We're supposed, that's our culture.
I
Yeah.
feel like jiu-jitsu is the same. I don't care if I submit a black
No,
belt. in front
okay,
of
I feel like
then
somebody.
maybe-
I feel like jiu-jitsu is a little bit different
maybe
though.
You
I
can
mean-
toy with them more because you have the ability to do so.
Actually, that's another difference. That's something we didn't
Yeah.
talk about.
This is
in,
very
in
interesting.
BJJ, right? You're not supposed to go up to the black belt and ask to go with him. In judo, you're not supposed to wait on the black belt. You're supposed to beg the black belt to not beg, but yeah, beg to basically have the honor of going with the black belt. In in a traditional club, right? You have the black belts. They lined up on the mat. Usually the ones that are competing, not necessarily the ones that are like, the more aged ones, but they're there, and people will run at the opportunity to go with you. They're like, you're the number one choice. They want to go with you because they want to learn from you, and that's their way of showing their respect. Because
But-
if they don't want to go with you, they're basically saying you're not worth their time.
But if I was to go into a jiu-jitsu gym, as I'm a brown belt, and I'm very new, I don't even know anything about the gym. I just visited there, and I go to the black one and say, hey, let's go. That's considered like disrespectful.
Yeah,
right away.
that's one of the rules that I try not to implement in my gym.
Okay.
Or like in my classes, not my gym. If you want to roll with me, like that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care. Like
Yeah.
as a black belt, you should feel kind of glad that people want to roll with you. You know that they're not
Yeah.
afraid of you.
Mhm.
I think one subject that I did want to touch upon before I left is I feel like jiu-jitsu is getting watered down. I don't know how you guys feel about judo in terms of how traditional it is. I don't know if you guys feel like judo is a lot more traditional than before, or if it's maintained that.
It's at a very small rate. It'll going down a little bit, but only a little bit. It
More
used to
of
be.
the rules, I think.
I would say if anything is depreciating the traditional aspect of judo, it'll be the actual regulations being put in place, not necessarily the players.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
rules put in place about the length of the gi and the actual not. It's very traditional to grab legs in judo, but that's.
I mean,
outlawed.
just like in class in general, like day to day, like when you see like people from this
Do you know why?
generation coming into the gym and trying like we're recommending these sports, but
Mm-hmm. Listen to this, June. My opinion is this, and I wanted to touch upon this as well. I feel like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in America is more of a business than a club or a gym. It's more of a business, and they try to accommodate for everyone. Now, I'm not saying every single Jiu-Jitsu school is like that, but for Judo, it's more like a club where we all come together, we train, and we try to throw each other. But Jiu-Jitsu, it's more of a paid membership, whether you do 6 months, a month, or a whole year. It's more of a business, I see, than an actual, like, club for Judo.
I feel like that's hard when you're a first generation to second generation jiu-jitsu practitioner, because people that started jiu-jitsu, well, kind of my time a little bit before, they were starting because they truly loved the art form, and they just wanted to become extremely good at protecting themselves and also learning the martial art. Now that it became more popular, I feel like people that are coming in see it more as a way to stay in shape. I didn't start to stay in shape. I started because I wanted to be a killer.
Yeah.
Right? And then now, like, these people come in and they think it's like, you know, Pilates.
Yeah.
Right?
Is that what you think?
I feel like
me,
a lot
I
of
don't
people
know.
come in jiu-jitsu and I don't think they're coming in with the right mindset.
But do you think that there's some jiu-jitsu clubs that see that as not just, you know, people with the wrong mindset, but they see that, well, they're paying all the same, so let's accommodate for them.
Right, you see, and that's the part that, you know, like Peter Griffin said, grinds my gears. Like,
I remember that episode.
Yeah,
I like that
you
episode.
can't, like, I understand the business aspect of it, but you can't just give the belts away.
No,
Like,
yeah.
that's for me,
Yeah.
it's like sacrilegious. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
For
Even
me-
if someone's been there for
Yeah,
years.
for me, you earn it. You earn it by merit. You train hard. You show it on the mats. You show your progression, and then that was the beauty. That's why it took so long, right? Like, man, 12 years. Well, hopefully you invested those 12 years wisely.
Yeah. No, I agree. Earn
If
your
you
way.
suck after 12 years, come on now.
Yeah, that's on you.
What do you think about like getting promoted online?
Oh my god.
I've seen that and I question that sometimes, but I raise my hands up.
So no Zoom classes.
Well, because of COVID.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, that's fair.
You know, but even before COVID, there was like classes online that you could get promoted. I was totally confused with that. You know,
Yeah.
how do you practice? With someone? By yourself? With a dummy? Maybe with your dog.
It's just, you know, I hope that most jiu-jitsu practitioners actually, when they have a little bit of pride in what they do, and if you're getting your belt, at least in the back of your mind, you don't have that little voice that tells you don't deserve it. You know, it should be more like, man, like, I've been working hard. You know, like, it's kind of like
Finally.
right?
Yeah.
That should be what you feel, instead of, oh my
At
god,
the end of a marathon.
I think
Yeah.
I'm
But now
gonna
you're
stop
starting
going.
another one.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
let me like quit while I'm ahead, type of a thing. Like, I got this, now I'm gonna stop.
What would you guys be doing if you never found judo or jiu-jitsu?
I
Ooh.
don't know.
I think I would be overweight.
Yeah, same. I'd still be stuck
I
in
have no
ballet.
idea. Ballet.
Did you know I did ballet?
No, I did not, Jeff.
Yeah, I did ballet. Can't believe I did. But you know, actually, looking back on it, now I'm glad it turned out the way it did. But if I didn't find judo, I hope I would have never quit ballet because I didn't realize how sweet I had it. You know, it was a class of about 60 people. I was the only guy.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, you understand, Ron? You understand?
No.
I,
Don't you go the
no,
other way?
please.
So, but either way, no, I'm
details.
I'm happy. Well, you know, I was a kid. I didn't know at the time. I was like, what, 4 or 5?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But you know, so you know, it didn't matter to me at the time. But you know, I'm glad the way it turned out. You know,
How old were you when you quit?
5. I started doing gymnastics up until I was 8.
Oh, that's actually a pretty good sport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gymnastics actually. I developed a little bit of acrobatic skills, necessary ones: front rolls, back rolls, cartwheels, things like that, handstands. And then from 8 years old on, I was just nothing but judo. Judo, well, I wouldn't say nothing but judo. It would be judo. I did like a little bit of boxing. I did a lot of Olympic weightlifting.
Right now, like, let me give you guys a question
Sure.
before we move on to Lakea with this same question before I forget is, do you consider jiu-jitsu or judo a way of life or a sport?
Way of life.
A way of life.
Way of life.
Exactly.
100%.
And I think that's
100%.
why it's so hard for it when it goes to Olympic level. It's not a sport.
Yeah.
What the Japanese or the Koreans or the Chinese started when they invented martial arts was
The way of life.
a way of
The
life.
lifestyle.
A
I'll
lifestyle.
even say this: my last competition was for judo was Junior Worlds in 2019. I have yet to compete in a judo competition since 2020. I haven't competed at all. Yet judo has still had a major impact on my life. Where I go, you know, school's been stressful. So has my job. Frankly, I love my job, but it's stressful.
Right.
You know, judo has allowed me to just take off the work clothes, get my mind right, put on the gi, put on the belt, and I'm like, I'm me.
And-
You know, that's like that piece of me.
Right.
That's your
complete.
identity.
It's my identity, yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many times where I'm working with a coworker who I'm thankful I don't have to work with anymore. who, let's just say he was, he didn't have good people skills.
Okay.
There's so many times where I'm like, man, I just,
You
I
just
feel
wanna-
out
you
of
just
my
wanna do a
element.
soda guy.
I'm out of my element. I'm just like, if we were on the tatami, I could deal with my problems. And sometimes it's
Physically.
that's not great for you, right? I can't do that in an office. I can't. So there's that
Why
part
don't
of
you
me.
just invite him?
That part of me. It's funny. I have. He turned it down. I did it in the most
He's
polite
smart.
way.
Very
I
smart.
did it in the most polite way. I'm like, hey man, you should come through. Come check it out. And he was like, no.
You think he's gonna watch this?
No.
I feel like one of my biggest regrets is one of my favorite athletes is Kobe Bryant, and he has this thing called the
Oh,
Mamba
yeah.
mentality. And
The
he
what?
j- The Mamba mentality.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever heard about the Mamba mentality?
No. Tell us.
It's pretty much Kobe Bryant was detailing how he trains, and it was always him training his mind to have the mental edge before the season started. So, let's say Kobe heard that somebody was training preseason or was training during the summer. So what Kobe did was that he would train 5 a.m. and then he would train 9 a.m. He trained 12. He trained 5
So
p.m.
4
again.
times.
So he trained 4 times. So because he knew that other person was only doing 2 a days, he was doing 4 a days. And he knew that if he started earlier and slept earlier, he could get in more training time because he was waking up so early. So his Mamba mentality was always having that mental edge over his opponent. And I feel like I wish he would have done jiu-jitsu, because I feel like that Mamba mentality is what most martial art practitioners are trying to achieve.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Always having that mental edge. So
Now, do you believe in anything, not to sound, but just being scientific, training 4 times a day? Obviously, he's a professional athlete.
he's a professional.
But do you think training 4 times a day, year in and year out, is there any? Do you ever fear of any type of overtraining? Do you think that there should be a
I feel
legitimate
like
schedule?
when you're young, like Kobe, he started at 18, 17 when he entered the league.
Yeah.
Just like jiu-jitsu, if you see a lot of guys now that are starting 17, 18, like Nicky Ryan.
Yep.
If you do it smart and you do it like him, and you're investing your time, and you know who you're doing it with professionals, oh man, for sure, you can train 4 or 5 times a day. No
Okay.
problem, as long as you're doing the recovery properly. Yeah.
As long as you're
right.
training the right way.
As long as you're
well.
training the
You
right
said
way.
training smart, and that's a huge.
Yes.
That's a huge vocabulary thing right
Yeah,
there.
right there.
We're not doing bench press 5 times a day.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Yeah,
Just
that's-
squats.
He was doing drilling. So he was doing drilling, he was
Don't
doing
forget leg
2-on-2s, right? And I enjoy basketball quite a lot, and that's why I know all this. But, you hear him speak, and the way he speaks as if he was a martial arts practitioner
Huh.
in the way that he trains, in the way that he thinks. So if you ever want to see an interview, you should check out a Kobe interview. It's quite interesting.
Oh, certainly.
Hmm.
I agree.
And I want to thank you guys for inviting me. It was
Thank you,
really,
Jun, so
it was
much.
really
Yeah,
good
thank you so
talk.
much.
I always enjoy talking about martial arts, sports
Same here.
in general. And I just want to say one more thing. Martial arts is a way of life. It is
Yes.
not a sport. We made it into a sport because we wanted some medals. But at the end of the day, it's a way of life, and enjoy it as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, I have nothing else. That's well spoken. I agree 100%.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Again, we have Jun as our guest, Jeff as well, and Lakea Vargas. And this is Submission District signing out.
Signing out.
See you
later.
guys. Bye.
See you guys.